Anchorage Accords. The Anchorage Accords taking place tomorrow, round one. Donald Trump, President of the United States, Vladimir Putin, the President of the Russian Federation. The stakes have never been higher. Quite frankly, World War III is on the line. I want to bring on Colonel Douglas Macgregor to get his thoughts on this and the possibility of peace as we walk forward. Colonel, how are you?
Great, Jack. Good to be with you.
Do you view a positive outcome coming out of the meeting tomorrow? I know there's a lot of skepticism surrounding this.
I don't think I'm expecting a terribly negative outcome. I'm just not expecting anything of substance really to emerge. My hope is that we will not repeat the mistake that was made by Tony Blinken and his little delegation when they met with the Chinese foreign minister and his delegation in Alaska. That meeting was a catastrophe because Blinken and his friends went in and tried to lecture the Chinese and tell them what was wrong with them and what they needed to do. And of course, that failed miserably. The real question here is, what are the facts that we can agree on? And that's something I have no idea what's being discussed between the Russians and us. You can't go into a meeting like this unless you can agree on the facts. So that's the first question. I don't know if they can agree on all the facts because I continue to hear sort of nonsense narratives come out of President Trump that have no relation to reality when it comes to the war in Ukraine. The second thing is we talk about, can we avoid World War III? Well, that's easy for us. We have no vital strategic interest in Ukraine, and I wish that President Trump would get back to that. We never have, and I don't think we ever will. So the one interest that we have is the same one we had when the war began that we ignored, and that is we want stability and we want prosperity. And to get that, you need order and peace. So we can do our part. The problem is he's got to deal with the European allies. And in specific, that's not everybody in Europe. That's really London, Paris, and Berlin, who seemed committed to support this man, Zelensky, and his criminal regime in Kiev. So under those circumstances, it's a tough road for President Trump.
It certainly is. And we notice, of course, that Secretary Bessent was announced on the delegation. So I saw Rubio, J.D. Vance, Bessent, and of course Steve Witkoff as well. Notably, the Secretary of Defense appears, at least from what I've seen so far, doesn't appear to be going. So it seems, though, that, and there's this sort of information that's been leaked in the UK Telegraph. We're taking that, of course, with a grain of salt. But it seems, though, that President Trump may be trying to offer some sort of trade deal to the Russians. We've seen this in the past with the Ukrainians to establish some sort of balance. We know that he's used trade deals in the past. Do you think that's something that could be on the table?
Well, I think the Russians, just like President Trump, I think they all want to normalize relations. We should have good relations with Russia. There is no fundamental reason for conflict between the United States and Russia. I think President Trump has always known that. Go back to 2015, 2016, and the statements he made then. They're all still accurate today. So bringing along Bessent is a good thing because there's conceivably an opportunity for some serious discussions about progress in that particular area. The problem, as I said before, is that this NATO alliance, which is frankly on life support, it's a zombie, is more a burden than an asset now to us. It has been for some time now. I think it's a real burden. You have London, in particular, and MI6 working with the CIA and Mossad. They want war in Ukraine. But that's not in our interest. We have an interest in ending it and putting a stop to the killing. That's what President Trump has said. He can do that. But the only way to do that is to say, look, let's acknowledge the truth on the ground. Where are the forces now? And we can agree to something. I think President Trump can. The problem is you turn to London, Paris, and Berlin, and they want to shove this man Zelensky in everybody's face. And I don't know about you, but the last time I saw Zelensky in the Oval Office, I wanted him to be picked up and thrown out of the nearest window. I thought the troll was despicable and disgusting and completely disrespectful towards the president and our country. But, obviously I hold a minority opinion. And this guy, Zelensky, is still with us. But I think President Trump is in a position where he can come out of this and say, look, we've come to some arrangements on different levels. One, we want to talk again about nuclear weapons. And I think he would like to do that, go back to the INF Treaty, look at areas where we have mutual interest in ratcheting down the nuclear threat. Number two, we really do want to do business, and we want a framework for going forward regarding how we're going to interact economically in the world, get out of this weaponized tariff business. And I think he would like to do that. The problem is then you get to Paris, London, and Berlin. And the only way we're going to make any progress with those people is if those governments are thrown out. They need to be thrown out because they're killing their respective nations. What you're seeing in D.C. is what you're seeing all over those places. It all needs to stop, and they've got to stop it. We can't fix that. And I think President Trump knows that as well. So I think he can come out and say we made some progress here, but otherwise, I've decided that we have done as much as we can do. And we are now leaving. We are pulling our forces out, our people who are in Ukraine. We're getting out, and we're suspending any future aid unless it's humanitarian to Ukraine. Now, I don't know if he can do that, but I think in his heart of hearts, that's what he'd like to do.
And certainly we're seeing the rolling collapse in eastern Ukraine as we speak, these areas facing encirclement. And really, these are the last fortified areas up until the river itself. It's open country for the most part, all the way up to the Dnieper River, where the Russian forces are pushing out in a number of salients right now along the contact line. So the real question is from the Russian perspective, is why stop? We've got just about 1 minute. Colonel McGregor, unfortunately a little truncated because of President Trump's Oval Office speech earlier today. Where can people go to follow you and get access to your work?
Oh, anywhere on YouTube. You can go to DougMcGregor.com, my website. That's easy. But let's hope that President Trump can shed the burden of the European constraints and break out and do what is in the interest of the United States, which is to repair relations with Russia and get out of this terrible, pointless war.